Hi, my name is Jeff, and I would like to welcome you to my video blog, Learn Your Dream Language. Obviously, I want to try to teach you how to learn your dream language and how to interpret your dreams. First thing I want to say is I am by no means an expert in interpreting other people's dreams. Well, why do I feel like I'm qualified to do this blog? Well, I have 36 years of obsession with dreams. I can give you an exact date thanks to my aunt. My obsession with dreams began on January 5th, 1980 with a dream. That was 3 months, 1 day after my 5th birthday. From that point on, I have been obsessed with all things dreams. I have been obsessed with the brain. I have been obsessed with psychology. And I have taken every aspect that you can think of and have come up with a few theories and come up with a process on how to learn your personal dream language. I used to have a page where I did help people try to interpret their dreams, but it's hard to do with absolute strangers. I had some success. Some dreams I was able to figure out in 5-10 minutes. Others, it was damn near impossible for me to do so, because one of the problems you have with dealing with strangers and trying to figure out their dreams is that you have to ask a lot of personal questions, and people who don't know each other are very afraid to give up personal information, which is quite understandable. Dream interpretation itself is a very personal thing. So if you're one of those people who goes to a dream dictionary or an online dream dictionary, that's one suggestion I'm going to give you to start with. Ignore it. Don't go to those dream dictionaries. Don't look up dream symbolism, because for the most part they're all BS and it's outdated and it's just a ridiculous waste of your time and money. Like I said, there's different aspects of studying dreams. A lot of people confuse onerology and the study of dream interpretation, which is not. Onerology is the study of the mechanics behind the dreaming mind, the physiological components of the brain which we know are involved while you're asleep and the mind is dreaming, and it has nothing to do with dream interpretation in itself. What I have done is I have come up with a theory, a couple different theories actually, and I've come up with a model that will help you to learn your dream language a lot quicker, help you figure out your dream language so that you can wake up from a dream, and for the most part within a minute or two you can have your dream figured out. It's not always going to be that easy. Sometimes it takes a lot of work. Sometimes you're not going to be able to figure out that dream. I have dreams that I've been working on for the past 20 years. I've got aspects of the dreams figured out, but other parts I still have not gotten to yet. It's a very mysterious process. It's the whole thing is mysterious and just truly fully beyond our comprehension, but it is doable. I'm not trying to simplify this at all, because it's not simple. We still don't know all there is to know, obviously. Why are dreams so important? Well, look at what have come from dreams. Periodic table. Einstein came up with a few of his theories from dreams. Literary masterpieces, musical masterpieces have come from dreams. Cures for diseases have come from dreams. We have literally changed the world more times than you can imagine just because someone's dreams. Think about how powerful a dream is when you wake up in the morning, the emotion that you feel after you've had a dream. It can put you in a bad mood all day. It can put you in a great mood all day. Dreams can help with psychological illness and stuff like that. So dreams are more important than what we understand, and also I believe, and this is part of my theory, dreams helped our species survive. The dreaming process has helped our species thrive and survive. Now, I'm going to post a bunch of separate video blogs regarding my theories on the evolutionary dream process, the evolution of the sleep cycles, coinciding with the evolution of the brain, and a bunch of other theories that I have. And I'll label them, because if that's the stuff that bores you and you don't want to get into it, I understand, and I'll make sure that you know that what blog is about figuring out your dream language. So today I'm going to give an example, and before I do, I want to give you a quick overview of my 4-stage evolutionary theory, which I apply to interpreting dreams. That 4-stage theory is: number 1, environmental; number 2, physiological; number 3, psychological; and number 4, precog, or the unknown. Today I'm going to give a stage 1 environmental dream, how I figured the dream out, and I'll give an overview of the environmental aspect of my theory number 1, and hopefully you'll be intrigued by it and you'll come back for the next video, the next 4, which will lay out my theory, and then we can continue to go from there. So with no further ado, to tell you about the stage 1 environmental dream I had, I would like to introduce myself. So the first dream I want to use as an example for stage 1 environmental is in 2001, I believe, March, April. I was living with my friend in a farmhouse in Richland Center, Wisconsin, and I began to have a series of dreams. The first dream I had involved a particular individual that I knew. He had put a gun to the back of my head and he had pulled the trigger, and I heard the gunshot. I immediately woke up. The next day I had a similar dream with the same individual and 2 other individuals. The back of my head, boom, gunshot, woke up. Had the dream for a few more days, and then the dream stopped. The dream stopped for a few days, and what I thought, as soon as I had the dream, the person who was pulling the trigger, a year and a half earlier, I had been assaulted by 3 individuals who happened to have guns on them, so I just immediately assumed that it was a psychological, stage 3 psychological unresolved PTSD and possible stage 2 physiological sleep apnea combined to create the dreams. However, in my studies, as I realized that if you're trying to figure out serial dreams, there's a message behind them. If you get the message, if you figure out the message, the dreams will stop completely. If you get part of the message, then part of the dream will change, and other aspects will remain the same until you can figure it out. The dreams continued, and the same actor usually made the appearance in the dream, and he was pulling the trigger. So then I figured there had to be more of a component to the just stage 2 or 3, and I had to really get to work on it. So I had to start trying to figure out what was going on. First thing I had to look at was there anything different in my surroundings while I was sleeping? And there was. I was at one point sleeping in the upstairs of the farmhouse, but I had suddenly, because of allergies and cold and whatnot, moved down to a bedroom that was downstairs off to the side of the bathroom on the main floor. That was a change in the environment that could have added to it. So then I began to believe it was some kind of environmental aspect, and I couldn't figure how. And then one morning, for some reason, I had to be up early for work. I am not a morning person, and I was doing my usual morning manly thing. A lot of guys will attest that you do your best thinking when you're sitting on that toilet. That morning, as I was sitting on the toilet, that's when I was able to figure out the dream, because as I was sitting there, I heard my roommate and friend Josh leaving for work, and when he left for work, he closed the outside door, which is a big, heavy, thicker door, and it sounded like a gunshot. As soon as I heard the closing of that door, I immediately knew what was causing that dream, what was triggering the dream. It was the sound of the door, which my mind was interpreting as closely related to a gunshot as possible, and my brain connected the individuals who assaulted me and who had the guns into the dream. Dream stopped as soon as I figured out what was causing the sounds that triggered the environmental dream. And just because I want to take everything a step further, I wasn't happy with figuring it out, but I wanted to go further and find out why it was always the back of my head, not the front, not the side, not this side, not underneath, but why was the gun always being put in the back and the trigger being pulled. And obviously I can't prove this, but what I believe happened, and for that reason, is because the bedroom, which was off to the side, my bed, I was sleeping at this angle where my head would be considered towards the back of the front door where the sound is coming from, so I'm hearing the sound from behind me. Had I been flipped and sleeping in the front of the bed, where the sound would be coming directly head on, odds are, I personally think, then the dreams of the dynamic of the dreams would change, and I would be getting shot to the forehead or maybe other places in the front of my face. I can't prove that. That's just a guess, but to me it sounds logical. Okay, so that was an example of a stage 1 environmental from my 4-stage evolutionary theory. And by environmental, you're less likely to have environmental dreams in this day and age simply because of the way society has advanced. You sleep in a bedroom with locked doors. Your bedroom is in a house with locked doors. We have security systems and everything like that. So our mind is at ease when we're sleeping regarding our relative safety and the environment around us. Strip that away before we had the locks on the doors and all our advancements. Then we had, like our vicious dogs to protect our houses, and if we heard barking, that would wake us up. The barking might be incorporated into a dream if you're in late stage NREM or REM. But let's strip that back further, and you go back to the time where we didn't have houses and when we were sleeping in caves before we left the treetops, and we're sleeping on the ground by the riverbeds and packs and stuff like that. Environmental means that you were the most vulnerable you were, and we still are. When you're in REM sleep, you are the most vulnerable you are as a human being. There's only 3 ways out of REM sleep. One is to be woken up by somebody. The second is to gradually and naturally cycle through the sleep stages. And the third would be to, in my personal theory and beliefs, is to have some sort of nightmare that would trigger the response, the chemical rushes like adrenaline and everything else, that would immediately bypass the temporary paralyzation during REM sleep and put you in immediate fight or flight mode. That way, if, okay, I mean, this is pretty self-explanatory, but just let's consider this little ape thing or whatever was sleeping on the ground, and all of a sudden, there's a lion close by ready to eat. He's in REM mode. He's in sleep, and he has no idea that he could probably end up being eaten by the angry, hungry lion, blah, 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 blah. So what his mind is doing while he's asleep, while we're asleep, while we're in REM sleep, all of our senses are actively engaged. Sound, smell, touch, and believe it or not, sight. When you're in rapid eye movement, your eyes are blinking uncontrollably and they're scanning back and forth. Now, I can't replicate on video how the visionary aspect would be, but just kind of, if you were to blink right now, watch my finger, and if you blinked, you would see the finger here, and then it would be here, and then it would be here, and then it would be here. You're not aware of it because you're sleeping, but your mind is aware of it because it's processing it. It might hear the sounds of the lion going through the foliage, the scraping of the leaves, or it could hear the growl, or whatever, and that's going to send an immediate response once it's percepted into the brain, and you're not going to be able to just naturally cycle through, so you have to wake up immediately because your life depends on it. That's what I mean by environmental and the evolutionary aspect. That's how it started out, and as we've progressed through society and humanity, it's become less important because we have everything else to cover us, to allow us to feel safe. And that's why people who travel frequently, people, and I can use this as an experience, homeless people and people who find themselves sleeping in more strange environments or unsafe neighborhoods when they're not usually used to it, they're going to have more vivid dreams or nightmares because they're interpreting sounds that they're not familiar with. When you're in your bedroom, in your home, and everything like that, all the regular sounds that you're used to get tuned out by your sleeping brain and ignored, and anything that might seem foreign or could possibly pose a danger, your brain is going to revert back to that very basic instinct from way, way back, hundreds of thousands of years ago. I do have a separate theory regarding the origin of REM sleep and at what point REM might even appeared on the scene. Again, that's a different blog and that's a different theory and everything like that, and that might have nothing to do with the interpretation process. So that's what I mean by environmental. Again, you're less likely to have environmental dreams in this day and age. However, if you suddenly develop thematic dreams, which happen the same theme over and over and over again, and it just appears out of nowhere, first thing you need to do is make sure that there's not something new psychologically that's causing it, and we'll get into that when I do stage 3 psychological. Or you got to make sure that there's some other components missing, and if you don't feel that, then you go for environmental. Find out if it's a sound that's triggering it, find out if it's a smell that's triggering the dream, and find out newborn parents of newborns especially, this might be the best example. Environmental, you got your baby monitor and you've already learned how to tune out all the sounds surrounding you. However, you're going to be hypersensitive to the sounds coming from that baby monitor and to the baby crying, etc., because that's just the nature. You are going to look to protect your child, and if you hear your child crying in the middle of the night and you're in REM sleep, odds are you're going to incorporate a dream where there's crying and maybe a baby in danger or something, which is going to force you to wake up. So again, that's a stage 1 environmental. Those are less frequent in this day and age, but they are still out there. So I hope you maybe learned a few things, and I hope you're not bored by this. And if you are, I apologize. And if you want to keep going, just like my page and tune in for the next video, which will be stage 2 physiological. Thank you.